group.
Is it possible to have a rational discussion with you?
I've asked you two questions. Should Hamas stay in power and are they a terror group? You're refusing to answer either of them. That is very telling.
TalkTV, it's the only place where you get the truth.
You've done a book on poetry. Poetry and music for the many. I love poetry. We can agree on that.
On TV, on radio, and on your smartphone. This is TalkTV.
Tonight on Piers Uncensored from here in Los Angeles, I sit down again with George Santos, the disgraced US congressman who, less than a year ago, admitted to me he was a terrible liar. Did you not think people would find this out?
I've been a terrible liar.
Those lies came back to haunt him.
The expulsion of the gentleman from New York, Mr. Santos.
He's now been thrown out of Congress, one of only 6 people in history in the United States, and he's facing 23 criminal charges.
I'm not saying I'm an innocent little flower. Nobody's an innocent little flower.
Will he go to prison?
It's a long barrel to be looking down.
Is he sorry?
And I'm asking everybody to please give me a second chance.
What happened to George Santos? I just don't get the constant lying for no reason. George, so it's been nearly a year, incredibly, since we did that now infamous interview in New York. A lot has happened to you in that time. I was struck by a tweet as he flew into Los Angeles to do this interview, where he said, just landed at LAX, and as I'm deplaning, I had a gentleman come up to me and thank me for my service in Congress. Now, because it's George Santos, I have to ask you first, did that happen?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Do you think that you deserve to have that kind of response from the public?
You know, I invite all of folks in the media, Piers, to come back home with me and ask the people yourselves. Don't believe me. You don't need to believe me, right? I've been discredited for an entire year in the media. It doesn't matter how much I've admitted to what where my shortcomings were and where I did commit. I was less than truthful, right? But
well, last time you admitted you were a terrible liar.
My point. So the reality is I invite folks to come into my hometown and take a look for yourself. I am not in the same predicament that the media has propelled for the last year. This is a very common response I've received. There's a sense of outrage back home after the expulsion.
Really?
Yeah, there was.
Why?
I'm conservative, Piers. People voted for a conservative person for that district after 26 years of Democrats. And I went in there and I was conservative through and through. The most conservative member from the New York delegation.
But nobody voted for the George Santos.
Yes, they did.
You actually are.
That's not true.
They voted for the fake version you
That's
sold.
not true. They voted for the principles, the agenda, the political positions that I performed, and that I.
So do you not think any of the lies matter?
No, nobody voted for me based on my resume, and I've seen that actually trend on Twitter for quite some time. People saying, I didn't vote for his resume, I voted for his policies, and guess what? He delivered on each and every one of them. I never broke a single campaign promise. A single one, Piers. Do you know how many politicians can say that? Very few.
What did you actually achieve, though?
You know what? It's very hard to achieve anything when nobody is allowing.
Give me your main achievement as a congressman.
My votes. I maintained.
No, but what did you actually achieve?
Well, like I said, I was.
I mean, this guy's thanking you for your service in Congress. What did you actually achieve?
Thanking for me. That's a question for him, right? He was sitting next.
No, but my question is for you. What do you think you achieved?
I think I achieved standing my conservative ground. I never buckled. I never bended over to the establishment or to the liberal mob in Congress. I've always kept my.
It wasn't the liberal
values.
mob that got rid of you.
No, it was the liberal mob. Yes, it was. It was
actually it was a lot of Republicans.
Sure, but not a majority of them. A minority of Republicans, along with every single Democrat, almost.
And you were the first Republican congressperson ever to be thrown out.
Yes, that's true.
Ever.
That's true.
There've only ever been 6 congresspeople thrown out.
I'm the 6th, right? There's only been
3
5.
were in the Civil War.
Yeah.
Right, who were Confederates.
2 were indicted.
And 2 had criminal convictions.
Yeah, I didn't have any of that.
And then, well, not yet.
Well, unless you can tell the future.
Well, no, but you're facing 23 federal charges.
That's fine. And
I'm
fighting them. And I'm fighting them seriously.
But they're serious.
They're serious, yeah.
So, I mean, since I saw you last in less than a year, everything that you were then has gone up in smoke. You accept that?
Oh, a lot has gone up in smoke, but I'm still here, right? I'm still relevant. People still want to talk to me. They still want to hear what I have to say.
Do they?
Oh, they do. you would be having this interview if they did it.
Well, I think you're a fascinating person, but mainly because of what's happened to you in the last year, confirming people's belief that in many ways you were one of the worst people to ever be in Congress. Do you understand why people think that?
I disagree. I didn't sell out my country. I didn't take a single vote that would put a man or a woman in the front line of a war. I didn't vote for anything that would further a globalist agenda. I love my voting record, and I stand by it. I actually think I have one of the very few voting records that somebody can actually put their head in bed and sleep at night without worrying about how far down the river they stole the American people, Piers. You know, when you look at some of those records over there, people who voted to put us into endless wars, nonsensical wars because of political vendettas that a president had of his daddy's non-concluded efforts in the Middle East, or whichever way it is that they rationale to put people at war. I never had to take that vote, and I would have not voted to put us at war. Quite frankly, I drew a line in the sand that I said, enough bloodshed of Americans, enough American treasure being literally blown to smithereens abroad. I support my voting record, and I think it's one much better. Even though it's only 11 months of a voting record, it's better than people who have been there 30 years.
Right, but in November 2023, a House ethics report found that you had blatantly stolen from your campaign.
It's not true.
And exploited every aspect of your House candidacy for your own personal
That's also
financial
not true.
profit.
That's also not true.
Well, that's what they found.
Well, no, that's what they think. That's what they speculated. They didn't come to a
Well, no, that was their conclusion.
No, that was not a conclusion. That ethics report was not a conclusion. It was again.
But it was on the basis of that the vote happened that threw you out.
Piers, just look at this. Their report is so lambastically bad. Michael Guest is such an abject failure of a chairman of the ethics committee. He has his own issues with ethics himself. I don't think he knew ethics if it looked at him in the face. But
would you?
I do. And in his report,
what do you think ethics means?
Well, give me a second. Let me conclude this thought. In his report, he says that I'm exonerated from any accusation of sexual harassment towards a potential staffer, which was a blatant false hit on me by somebody who just wanted to infiltrate my staff. And then on his expulsion resolution, he says that I committed a sexual assault against that same individual. Which one is it, Piers? It's a contradiction that nobody can understand. It's so sloppily done.
But that wasn't why you were thrown out.
Well, the fact that it was contrarian to what was in the report, but was in the resolution to expel me, should just give you a little glimpse of understanding how sloppy the process was. There was only one accepted predetermined result. And they didn't want to do the full investigative report, which would have taken
Why would your
more.
own fellow Republicans be party to throwing you out if you're such an innocent little flower?
I'm not saying I'm an innocent little flower. Nobody's an innocent little flower. Neither you are, neither I am. None of those 434 members in Congress right now are. I'm saying we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all are flawed human beings, and I believe that fundamentally. But the way that this witch hunt of an ethics investigation on me was in Congress was completely unethical. It says a lot when I have to say and cite that the DOJ has been far better, courteous, and respectful of the process that we're undergoing. And the ethics committee just completely squandered themselves.
Yeah, but the irony of what you're saying is that they found, after an extensive investigation, that it was you that had been completely unethical. For example, you spent campaign money on Botox treatments, luxury fashion purchases, trips to Atlantic City and Las Vegas, holidays in the Hamptons, even your own rent.
That's not true.
None of it's true.
No, it's not. As a political candidate, we travel all across the country to raise funds. Las Vegas, Atlantic City, Hamptons. Am I the first politician with an expenditure in the Hamptons with fundraisers attached to it? They're full of crap. It's baloney. They just use buzzwords to get folks like you in the media to be able to go up in arms and say, oh my God, George Santos did this and that and A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
I only care about what you did.
Well, my point is I didn't do any of that, and they know damn right.
So when they say you were frequently in debt, had an abysmal credit score, relied on an ever-growing wallet of high-interest credit cards to fund your luxury spending habits, Is that also untrue?
I'm not abysmally in debt, wasn't then, am not now, have always paid all my credit cards off, and the amount and volume of credit cards I keep, that's just to show you that they're out of touch with the American people. Every single American is dwindling with high interest credit cards because of decisions politicians like that make in Washington, D.C. I was no different. I was no different, but is that shameful to have in? I don't have abysmal credit. Like it's baloney. It's absolute bullshit from the Ethics Committee because they're a bunch of little lords who have, if you look at the panel of the committee, just look at the committee for the whole itself, right? And you look at the records of all those people have all been in politics their entire careers. They don't know what it's to be a regular citizen.
You claim to own multiple properties and a luxury car, a Maserati. Is that true?
I'm sorry?
You claim to own multiple
I own a
properties
Jaguar. I
and
don't own a Maserati.
Do you ever claim to own a Maserati?
I have not. I own a Jaguar. I owned a Mercedes in the past, a Range Rover, but not a Maserati.
Why did you tell your staff, campaign staff, you had a Maserati?
I'd love to see that.
That was in the report.
And I didn't even read that part in the report.
That's not true?
I have a Jaguar. I love my
You
Jaguar.
never told one of your staff you had a Maserati?
No, not that I recall of. I always drove a Mercedes during the campaign and then a Jaguar.
You used to pay credit card debt and make purchases from companies including Hermes, OnlyFans, and Sephora.
Okay.
And you did this from a company, Redstone, which paid you at least $200,000, and you used that money to then go on the spending spree with those things. Is that true?
Okay. No, I'm not going to go into the details of this because
Why?
it's
You already have.
It's such bullshit.
Yeah, but hang on, George. You can't say
Piers.
that some of it is bullshit.
Piers.
And then when I ask you a specific like that, say,
and
I'm not going to talk about it.
I'm going to go this way. I'm not going to continue to unpack what I already did on the House floor of the United States. I called this out on the House floor on debate of this expulsion. It's so misconstrued. It's so twisted and spun.
But is that untrue?
Report, Piers, that report, no cop in America would bring it to a DA. No decent DA, no decent prosecutor would look at this report and say, this is a legal finding report. That is a political spin assassination attempt.
But you've called the committee...
The committee is flawed. Look, not even all of the members of the committee voted to expel me.
You called them unethical. You said that it's all bullshit.
I called Michael Guest unethical.
But specifically, this company, Redstone, that paid you at least $200,000, did you use that money to pay off credit card debt?
I've said
and
no to that.
purchase things from Hermes, OnlyFans,
I've already
Sephora?
said no.
You didn't?
I already said no, yes.
You didn't spend any of that money on those things?
Here's the deal, Piers. The way that they did this, it was designed to hurt me because they needed a way to get me out.
I'm not here to hurt you.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm
you
just
can tell me
saying
the truth.
and I'm telling you the truth. And I'm defending myself. I'm not going to stop
So
defending
none
myself.
of the findings they found are true?
Piers, I provided them with all the documents, all
Right.
the financials, and then they released my taxes
Hmm.
all out in the public, which is something that I didn't even give consent to. Like, I lost all my rights as an American citizen. My HIPAA rights were violated. My privacy rights were violated. Every single right of mine was violated by the Ethics Committee, and nobody's talking about that. Nobody. Nobody cares to talk about the fact that my HIPAA rights are violated, my privacy rights are violated. The Ethics Committee did a number on me. If I were like any other regular politician, matter of fact, if I was Michael Guest, I'd be sitting in a corner crying and weeping. But I'm not Michael Guest. I have a backbone, and I'm not going to stand. I'm not going to kowtow to what they want to.
If you're so innocent, why are you facing 23 federal charges?
I'm going to go ahead and fight that. I'm not discussing my DOJ proceedings on TV. This is not where I'm.
Well, you were the
arbitrating
first to
this.
mention the DOJ.
I gave a contrast, but I'm not discussing the process.
Right, but you get my point. If you're as innocent as you're trying to make out, why would you be facing 23 federal charges which could carry a punishment of 20 years in prison?
I guess you'll see that once the process plays out. That's all I can say.
But you've denied all these charges.
Like I said, I'm playing the process out, not getting into the DOJ.
Right, but you
matter.
have denied them. That's a matter of fact.
Yeah, I pled not guilty.
But you're aware of the severity of the charges.
No, I'm very aware.
You know, conspiracy to commit offences against America, wire fraud, false statements, falsification of records and documents, aggravated identity theft, access device fraud, unlawful monetary transactions over $10,000, theft of public money. These are serious charges.
They're serious charges, and I'm playing the process and fighting them as I go.
But if you've denied them all, none of them are true.
Like I said, Piers, I will not be discussing an ounce of the DOJ.
You've got to have considered, this is going to come up in September, I think, your
Yep, September
Your
is
case, right?
trial start.
If you're convicted, you will likely go to prison for a long time. Are you prepared for that?
Pierce, like I said, it's a scary thing to be facing. It's a long barrel to be looking down, and of course, like any other human being, I would be worried, scared, and concerned. But right now, I'm going through the process, and I have faith. I have faith.
But in your quiet moments, away from the public George Santos, when you think about what may happen, that's a tough thing, isn't it?
It's not easy, no. It's definitely not easy, but we go along with the ride, and you just got to take it on the chin and take it like a champ and move on. Life goes on.
We're here.
Thanks for joining us.
You're with TalkTV, on TV, on radio, online.
We're on your smart speaker as well.
Criminals using XL bully dogs as weapons to threaten others.
No matter how well trained, most dog owners will tell you a dog can turn.
Do you know what I love about Talk Today? We do it all. Sunak, Suella, scones.
I rather like David Cameron. I don't sort of bear him any ill will because he delivered the referendum that he said he would deliver.
The Tories love a scrap. You can almost see this coming round the tracks with Suella Braverman. She's heading up one side and Rishi Sunak the other.
The police are pro-Palestine. That is just not right. You swear an oath in the police to act without fear or favour.
The COVID inquiry seems to have turned into a sort of pantomime. There's not really any substance to it.
It's hard to know whether it's a farce or a tragedy. The amount of time it's taken, the number of illegal migrants currently sent by us to Rwanda, zilch. The amount of money it's cost, we're saying, what are we saying it's cost?
About 140 million.
140 million pounds so far. So 140 million pounds, so far result nil, absolutely nil.
Are we only going to be trusting sources like Meta and Google? Where is our unbiased news going to come from?
Calais in winter is cold.
That is from the Jeremy Corbyn book.
Kevin O'Sullivan is the worst presenter on Talk TV, sitting on his fat arse talking for a living.
If you're walking towards me and you're a vegan, you should have a great big orange sticker over here saying, "Watch out, vegans about."
The weirdest plank that we've had in 3 years. Hundreds and hundreds of mice in a box, which he walked into a branch of McDonald's. McMouseman.
McMouseman, yeah.
McMouseman.
He should be easy enough to catch, this guy, shouldn't he? I mean, he's got a house full of mice.
This is a major summit.
President Biden decided this was important after watching a Tom Cruise film.
Sunak and the current Conservative government are not conservative.
Why don't you leave that party and come to one that actually shares your ideology?
This has been a party political broadcast on behalf of the Reform UK Party.
Hi, Ofcom.
Kids think all they have to do is take pictures of everything.
Just shut down TikTok. Problem solved.
This is really unfair.
What's unfair?
If it's on camera, we're not doing the interview.
Yes, I'm going to do.
You're going to resign?
Yes, because I cannot continue my work. When I say I am God, I'm not joking.
Did you feel Elvis was controlling?
I've been answering your question, you answer mine.
It's actually not my job to answer your questions. Are you prepared to call Hamas a terror group?
Is it possible to have a rational
You can't,
discussion
can you?
with you?
I've asked you two questions. Should Hamas stay in power and are they a terror group? You're refusing to answer either of them. That is very telling.
TalkTV, it's the only place where you get the truth.
You've done a book on poetry. Poetry and music for the many. I love poetry. We can agree on that. Since we did our last interview, obviously I went through a lot of things which people had said you were lying about, and
I've dispelled a lot of them in the media afterwards, and I was able to get vindicated on at least some of them.
I'm going to go through them just to bring us up to speed, to see where we are with all this, right? So, on schooling, you said you attended a prestigious Horace Mann School in New York for 6 months. The school said there was no record. Has that record emerged? Were you there?
I'm sorry, no.
You were never there?
No.
Why did you say you were?
Well, at Horace Mann, there was an enrollment, there was a...
You weren't there?
I was not there for various reasons.
But you claimed you were?
That's fine. Yeah, and I
no, I'm just curious why.
I admitted afterwards that I was not.
Yeah, I'm just curious why.
Well, it's a long story, Piers.
Is there a short version?
No, there isn't really.
Isn't it just that you lied?
No, it's not just that I lied. There's a longer version of it.
Try me.
Pierce, it's a
Try
long,
me, George.
It's a long story.
I've got all day.
Yeah, well, so do I. Does your camera?
Absolutely.
Look,
We'll get more film.
It has to do with my parents getting me a deal to enroll, and then the whole thing falling through, and then just not being able to afford it. So it was an enrollment. And
Yeah, but the lie was that you said you went there.
Yes. I didn't go there.
Business education.
I've already cleared that up with you and with everyone else, right? So
business education. We established in our interview last time that you're claiming to have got a degree in economics and finance from Baruch College and a master's from New York University were both false. That hasn't changed, right?
No.
There's been no. That was false again.
No, has not changed.
You just made it up.
Like we said last time.
Any other reason that you want to share, or was just you made it up?
No.
Okay. You've claimed on your resume that you worked in Wall Street. You then said it wasn't written by you, is what you told me last time.
It was not.
But by a staffer. You said to me you have plenty of emails to prove you were uncomfortable with that. Have you produced those emails?
Yes.
And what do they establish?
It just establishes that I'm not comfortable with the way the bio was written and the way the CV was written. That's
That
all.
somebody was inventing a Wall Street career for you?
Oh, no. Not inventing a Wall Street career. I worked in finance and capital markets for years. Let's establish that. Between Linkbridge Investors, Met Global, and Harbor City, even though Harbor City ended up being defunct after my departure, the reality is I did have the career, I did have the relationships. People like to say that I never worked a day in my life. That's a line that runs rampant.
Did you work in Wall Street?
Well, in the sense of Wall Street, on Wall Street proper, no. In that industry surrounding Wall Street, yes.
Your Jewish ancestry, you always claimed Jewish and Ukrainian ancestry and said your grandparents survived the Holocaust and fled persecution. When I quizzed you about that in the last interview, you said you would battle this to your grave.
And I will.
And you said you'd ordered 4 DNA kits and were waiting on their return to confirm your ancestry.
I have them.
Have you used them?
They're going to be used in a documentary, so they're embargoed.
Right, so it's been nearly a year since you said you were going to do that.
Well, I decided to do it in my own terms, and it's getting done.
And you believe that DNA test will prove that you are Jewish?
I know it will. I know it will. I know it will. And I'm looking very much forward to it.
Your mystery marriage certificate, you said you'd show me once the cameras stopped rolling, but you didn't. Can you show me now? Is there a marriage?
I probably have it, but I'm not going to show it to you.
You can't show me, do you?
Not on camera. I'll show it to you after it rolls. Just remind me.
Yeah?
Yep.
How long have you been married?
Since November 2021.
Who are you married to?
Matt is his name.
Who's Matt?
Matt Santos. That's his last name.
Matt Santos.
Yep. I love that you guys are so intrigued with my spouse.
Well, it's only because you've been married to women. Now you've been
I was married to a woman first.
Now you're married to a man.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
But is that very unique at all?
No.
Okay.
That's not unique.
It's at all,
No,
right?
you've just been,
quite frankly,
you've just been very slow in being forthcoming about it.
No, I'm not. I've always said I was married to a woman first. I mean, folks who know me knew I was married. The problem is the media thought they knew me, and they just wanted to create outrage. Nobody talks about that obsession about the media. No politician.
You love being news.
No politician has ever gone under the amount of
I've never met
scrutiny.
anyone other than Donald Trump who loves being in the news
You
for
know
good,
what?
bad, and ugly reasons than you.
I don't like being in the news.
So
but I've learned one thing. Piers, I've learned
Santos.
one thing after Congress.
You don't like being in the news.
I did not like it at first. Now I've learned one thing.
Now you love it.
Well, of course, it pays my bills.
Right.
The
So when you
more
say you
relevant
don't like
guys
being in the
keep
news,
me.
actually you love it.
Back then, I did not like it. It was very off-putting. When you run for office, you're running for office, but I don't think you quite comprehend everything else that comes with it and all that lack of, I guess, privacy. You lose your privacy rights, essentially, right? So.
We talked about your mother, who I know you were very close to. You doubled down in our interview that she had died as a consequence of 9/11. But there's still no record of her ever working anywhere near the Trade Center. No one's been able to find it. In fact, quite the opposite. They found evidence of visa applications showing she wasn't even in the country at the time. Do you want to...
Green card holder, visa application, this doesn't even
And she
make
died
sense.
15 years later, and there's no evidence she died of anything relating to what happened on 9/11.
Well, look.
So here's your chance to clarify.
That's already been clarified in the documentary coming out later this year.
Well, you can't keep saying you've got to put stuff in a documentary.
But it is there, and I can't talk about it. I have a contract on it.
But is your position that your mother still died as a
You'll
result
see
of
it in
9/11?
the documentary. And
Oh, just answer the question.
I can't answer it.
That's ridiculous.
I can't. It's embargoed in the
Well, your
documentary.
new position is I've got a documentary. I can't answer
Well,
the
no,
question.
not on everything. I've been giving you answers. There's things that are embargoed for the documentary,
Hmm.
and I'd love for you to see it.
Do you accept that if you'd invented that, that would be pretty awful?
Anybody who would invent something like that would be awful.
So if you had constructed a story that your mother died
Didn't
because of
construct any-
9/11,
Piers, let's put it this way. I would never construct anything about my mother. My mother was my best friend. My mother was my favorite human being. And the fact that I have to see people write and the vitriol around things, the disgusting things that people have called my mother, and the disgusting things that people have said regarding
What do they
my
call her?
mother. I mean, the disgusting garbage on social media. The most heartless people live on social media behind a screen. And the fact that I have to see
look,
that.
I don't want to be fair to trolls, but what I would say about the criticism is that you initially implied to people your mother died on 9/11 and was in the towers. She was nowhere near the towers. She didn't work in the towers. She may not have even been in the country. Your documentary may well reveal the story about that, but certainly there's no evidence that your mother had anything to do with what happened on 9/11.
You'll see it in the documentary. I promise you. Promise you that.
The Pulse nightclub, we talked about that again.
We did talk about that.
That you said you lost 4 employees in the Pulse nightclub shooting.
Can I clarify something there? When I say 4 employees, not my employees, I didn't own the company. And the employees, and I double down, they weren't hired, they were in process. The company had just moved to Orlando, was in a massive hiring spree. And this was the information given to me at the time by the people up top in the company. And I maintained that position. I have no reason to infiltrate myself into a disaster like that, nilly-willy. And the great thing is, the records show I was in Orlando on that night. I was in Orlando that entire year, matter of fact, of 2016. And it's just so frustrating that people try to say, he said he owned the company. I never said I owned the company. When I work for a company, for instance, you work whatever station you work for, whether it's Fox Nation or Sky News, you wear their shirt. At least I do, and I say the company, my company.
The criticism is, George, that people think that you've attached yourself to a lot of very big moments in history, whether it's your grandparents and the Holocaust, whether it's your mother on 9/11, whether it's the Pulse nightclub mass shooting, that you have used these events to promote yourself in some way as being attached to these things to make yourself look better. That's
How
the
does
criticism.
that make you look better?
Because they're saying that you were somehow involved in some way, that you were the grandchild of Holocaust survivors, you were the son of
There's
a
hundreds
son of
of
a
thousands
the
of
son of a
people
9/11
related.
survivor, and so on. That when in fact there's no evidence these things are true.
Hundreds of thousands of people are associated to Holocaust descendants. How does that make anybody look better? It was a tragedy.
No, but it's a story that adds to your compelling personal narrative, unless it's untrue.
Here's the most frustrating thing that happened to me last year was me losing my voice. That is something I could never explain to you how frustrating it is.
What do you mean losing your voice?
My story was told by everyone in the media, all the talking heads. I never got.
You didn't lose your voice.
Oh, you sure?
You didn't
about
stop
that?
yapping all year.
Oh no, that's not true.
It is true.
That's not true. I could yap all I want. I can talk all I want. But at the end of the day, everyone in the media had the final say. I never got the final say to anything. Nobody bothered to do any real digging.
You, in our interview, doubled down on your denial you'd ever performed as a drag queen, despite pictures
Never
of
performed
you as a drag queen.
That one picture, that one incident in a carnival when
So
I
you-
was 18 years old.
So you did perform as a drag queen.
I did not perform. I dressed up once. I was 18 years old. Come on, Rudy Giuliani got motorboated by Donald Trump, and nobody called him a career drag queen.
An assassination attempt, you said, happened on you. You said that there'd been
That
this-
is
you said
poor
there'd been
translation.
Well, the Rachel Maddow show got the footage of the podcast where you made this claim, translated it word for word. You denied you'd ever said that you'd had an attempt on your life, an assassination attempt. In fact, the exact translation of what you said on that podcast in Brazil was, "We have already suffered an attempt on my life, an assassination attempt." So you did say that.
I did, and I suffered many more afterwards. Last year,
Assassination attempts.
there is a man right now in trial or in the process of whatever it is the DOJ is doing in Florida for literally conspiring and telling us, leaving a voicemail at my congressional office that he was going to kill me and my husband. And it was a serious, you know why it was serious? The man had a rap sheet. He had time he served or whatever the case was. He left an explicit voicemail and Capitol Police acted on it and the DOJ and the FBI.
There were some things we didn't get around to, I wanted to clear up. One was that you were a volleyball champion. You told a radio show in 2020 you were a star volleyball player at Baruch College.
Well, we can all know where that ended up, right?
Was that true?
No. I played volleyball in high school, definitely not in college.
Right. Were you at Baruch College?
No.
So you weren't there, let alone being
Played
a star
volleyball
volleyball
there,
player.
yep.
All of it was invented.
Yep.
Why, George?
Oh, Piers, there's so... I got to tell you, if I...
You said you slayed Yale. Baruch's volleyball team...
Well, they actually did slay Yale, but I wasn't part of it.
Baruch's volleyball team didn't even play against Yale in the period you claimed to have been there.
They did
So you
play
were
Yale at one
claiming
point.
to be a volleyball star for a college you never went to in a game where you slay Yale, even though they didn't play Yale in that period. Every single part of it was a whopper.
Pretty much, yeah, unfortunately.
Again, why? Here's the thing I don't really get about you, because you're very charismatic. You have a lot of qualities, I can see that. But can you explain to people why you have been such an habitual liar, often for no reason?
Piers, it's deeply rooted in the process of politics back in New York. I've said this so many times. Oh, if only I could some things and sometimes. Look, I'm not at the liberty of speaking on certain things because, again, I have an entire process with the DOJ ahead of me. So it'd be stupid, it'd be ill-advisable, and I wouldn't do myself any favors. But there's...
Some people think you have a sort of mental disorder.
I don't.
Have you ever had any treatment?
First of all, I am not a pathological liar. Second of all...
Well, what do you think that means?
Well, somebody who's lied for a living.
Yeah, you have.
But that's not true.
But it's true.
So you're saying that out of my 35 years of existence, the stupidity of the last 2 years is going to make up for the entirety of my life?
I would say that the litany of lies you told when you decided to run for office absolutely constitute pathological lies.
We're here.
Thanks for joining us.
You're with TalkTV, on TV, on radio, online.
We're on your smart speaker as well.
You know what I love about Talk Today? We do it all. Sunak, Suella, scones.
I rather like David Cameron. I don't sort of bear him any ill will because he delivered the referendum that he said he would deliver.
The Tories love a scrap. You can almost see this coming round the tracks with Suella Braverman. She's heading up one side and Rishi Sunak the other.
The police are pro-Palestine.
That is just not right. You swear an oath in the police to act without fear or favour.
The COVID inquiry seems to have turned into a sort of pantomime. There's not really any substance to it.
It's hard to know whether it's a farce or a tragedy.
There needs to be one human per machine to come and rectify beeps and the clanks and when it goes wrong.
Unexpected item in bagging area.
I know.
Are we only going to be trusting sources like Meta and Google? Where is our unbiased news going to come from?
Graham was president of the Cambridge Union, which is the rubbish version of being president of the Oxford Union.
Kevin O'Sullivan is the worst presenter on Talk TV, sitting on his fat arse talking for a living.
If you're walking towards me and you're a vegan, you should have a great big orange sticker over here saying, "Watch out, vegans about."
Twitter, you sons of Can you please reinstate my account?
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is a major summit. President Biden decided this was important after watching a Tom Cruise film.
Kids think all they have to do is take pictures of everything.
Just shut down TikTok. Problem solved. When I say I am God, I'm not joking.
Did you feel Elvis was controlling?
I've been answering your question, you answer mine.
It's actually not my job to answer your question. Are you prepared to call Hamas a terror group?
Is it possible to have a rational
You can't,
discussion
can you?
with
Talk TV. It's the only place where you get the truth.
This is Talk TV.
He's the world's best-loved jockey. And probably the greatest of all time. Frankie Dettori is adored by the royal family, and he's become racing royalty himself. but it hasn't always been a smooth ride. Banned from a sport he loves, a plane crash that changed everything.
The pilot was trapped and died. Dettori and Cochrane somehow scrambled free.
It's been a journey through triumph and real resilience, a true sporting champion. Frankie Dettori from Los Angeles on Piers Morgan Uncensored. When you self-reflect, have you been able to work out what it is about you which made you lie so brazenly, so often, but often for no real reason that anyone can really work out other than you just lied?
You know, Piers, no. There's nothing I can say to that.
There must be a reason.
No.
Really?
No. Unfortunately, no.
But you're sure it's not a mental disorder?
It's not a mental disorder.
How can you be certain?
Okay, well, are you willing to diagnose me here and now?
No, I'm just curious. How do you know it's not?
Oh, Piers. Life hasn't been pretty, I'll put it that way. And clearly, the last 2 years were tough. Things that happened in the campaign, I could barely ever even attempt to start explaining it. So I always choose to just, it is what it is.
Because you actually came into Congress as a breath of fresh air, you had a big win, you were seen as an big electoral force.
A powerhouse.
For the Republicans.
I was a powerhouse.
And you hit Congress, you were the first openly gay Republican congressman.
With a 16.5-point victory swing from a Biden seat.
So all of this was great, right? And yet you've blown that whole thing up because it turned out that you just had told endless lies. And the question is, everyone wants to know, and you've never really answered, is why? And it's fascinating to me that you just don't have an answer, or you don't want to give me an answer.
No, I don't have an answer for you. I really don't.
Something in your childhood?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Nothing triggered this?
No. No. Nothing.
You can't explain it?
No, can't explain it. Can't explain it. Sorry, Piers.
You don't have to apologize to me.
Oh,
I think you probably
I've
know
apologized to the American people many times, and I continue to do that.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, listen, saying sorry to the American people, I'm a terrible liar, is fine. All right. What do you say to your husband when he must have asked you about all this?
We've had conversations.
Did he know about all the lies, or was he?
No,
finding out via the media.
He found out by the media.
And what was his reaction? Because he loves you, he married you.
Obviously not positive, but you know, we work our way through our personal stuff together.
But he's your husband. He must have asked you to explain it.
We have had a year for the books, both of us, with our lives being turned inside out. You need to understand that everything that happened to me affected my family. My husband, my sisters, my parents, everybody. You know, my father, my mother's passed, but it's been tough. Believe it or not, it's been really tough to even sit down and unpack any of it.
Have you cried a lot in the last year?
I'm an emotional person. I'm not scared of saying that. Crying is something that I actually do a lot in private. I don't think anybody has ever seen me cry, but it's, yeah, I'm an emotional person, very emotional, so it's not uncommon.
Do you still lie?
No, I have no reason to. I think.
When did you decide to stop lying?
It's not about stopping or when I
Well,
decided
it is,
to
actually.
start. No,
It is.
it's about lying is stupid, period, right? And I think we all know that.
But when you've lied on your scale, when you've been that dishonest about every part of your life.
Not every part. You keep saying
Well,
every part
pretty
of my
much.
life. No, not pretty much.
Pretty much.
So you're going to define my entire life to my work and education. Period. That's all. That's what you're doing. That's literally what you're doing. You're defining my entire life based on two aspects of a human's life, which one would say is not even 10% of a person's life, right? Is your entire life your work and your education? It's not. You have family, you have friends, you have a plethora of experiences as a human being. So to say my entire life, that's broadly bullshit, and it's offensive. It's really darn offensive. I can assure you there's so much more I can offer, not just you and your viewers, but the world.
What? Like what?
You ask. I don't know.
You tell me.
You need to ask.
Well, sell yourself. If
Well,
there's another side to you.
I've sold myself. I'm a good person. I'm the person that you can call at 3 o'clock in the morning. If I have friends who have spoken to journalists. I've helped friends out of abusive relationships. I've helped friends out of literally being out in the street. I am a good person. I go out of my way. I take the clothes off my back, quite literally, to help people.
You've been on Cameo, which has caused a lot of entertainment to people. People are trying to go.
Have you been on there?
No.
You should join. You'd be a hit.
But your rate's gone down.
Oh, it went. So the peak, it was $500, and I decided.
What are you now?
350. I'm still top 2%.
How many requests do you get a week?
On a good week, now after the New Year's, it's been 1 week, I've gotten about 35 or 40, something like that. They're still coming in steadily. I reduced them, first of all. The reason I jacked them up was to deter a little bit of the volume, and I still did 1,200 videos in that short span.
You find that fulfilling, or just do it for money?
Well, first of all, I think it's fun. I enjoy the connection with them. And obviously, I have my bills to pay, Piers, and if that's how I'm going to facilitate paying my bills, I mean, there's no shame in that. It's honest work. Or do you disagree?
No, I think you're perfectly entitled to do it.
Okay.
There's nothing unethical about doing Cameo. I know lots of people on Cameo.
Like I said, I think you should do it. You'd be a hit.
I'm sure I would. I don't need to do it.
Well, why not? Is it beneath you?
I just think I can't think of anything I'd rather less do than spend all day
come on.
recording.
You can do one
if
here
people
and
ask me
there.
for videos, I do them for free.
I do them for free too. Tons. Do you know how many people say like, oh, I can't afford your camera? What do you want me to say? I said to friends and family.
Do you feel, George, even if you can't explain why you lied so much, do you feel now that it's all blown up in your face, do you feel a sense of shame or not really?
Terrible shame, and I've displayed that many times. But here's the thing, I have nothing to lose. The truth will set me free. I am not going to say anything.
I mean, you know the irony of that statement.
Well, yeah, sure, there's irony there, but here's the
truth might set you free. I mean, actually, in that one sentence, might well be the thing that sets you free.
No,
actually from now on saying, I'm going to tell the truth.
Well, that's what I've been doing, and it's making a lot of people uncomfortable. So I recently was wearing a pin that said they were fools to set me free, as in my colleagues in Congress, because I just won't stop talking.
Well, some of the things you say about Congress, I think, have real validity, right?
They're true.
Congress has passed fewer bills, I think, in this stage of the administration under Joe Biden than in history at this stage. When you look at Joe Biden and you look at Donald Trump, and they may be the two that duke it out for the White House, both of them have got a pretty checkered history when it comes to veracity. Do you think there's an irony there that you've been thrown out of office,
Piers,
for persistent lying?
Joe Biden has been lying since before I was born. Joe Biden was lying in his first presidential campaign. Joe Biden is a prolific liar.
And Donald Trump?
I don't understand what the obsession is with his lies. Tell me one lie that Donald Trump has said that is even comes close to Joe Biden. Just give me one.
Well, saying he had nothing to do with January 6th.
He didn't. He didn't. I was there. I was at the Ellipse. He didn't. He was still speaking. I was second or third row at the Ellipse in a muddy pit of cold mud. He was still speaking. And there were people already in their own volition breaking into the Capitol.
Because he told them to go down there.
He said march
to fight
peacefully.
He'd actually said go down and fight.
Fight like hell. Okay,
and then when they did start fighting, he did nothing until it was too late to stop them.
How many politicians have said the terms fight like hell? Republicans and Democrats, that is a figure of speech.
How many have stood there having done that and watched rioting take place and refused to stop it until it's too late?
He acted on it as soon as he got to the White House.
No, he didn't.
Come on.
He didn't.
Oh, come on.
He didn't.
Accusing Donald Trump of having any involvement with January 6th and turning a blind eye to Nancy Pelosi being Speaker of the House, having declined extra security measures for the Capitol that day at the request of President Trump, you're being a hypocrite if you don't bring up Nancy Pelosi. She wanted the political theater. She got the political theater.
She wanted a riot.
She wanted a riot,
don't be
of course.
ridiculous.
Oh, come on. Then don't be ridiculous saying Donald Trump had anything to do with it.
We're here.
Thanks for joining us.
You're with TalkTV, on TV, on radio, online.
We're on your smart speaker as well.
criminals to using XL bully dogs as weapons to threaten others.
No matter how well trained, most dog owners will tell you a dog can turn.
Do you know what I love about Talk Today? We do it all. Sunak, Suella, scones.
I rather like David Cameron. I don't sort of bear him any ill will because he delivered the referendum that he said he would deliver.
The Tories love a scrap. You can almost see this coming round the tracks with Suella Braverman. She's heading up one side and Rishi Sunak the other.
The police are pro-Palestine. That is just not right. You swear an oath in the police to act without fear or favour.
The COVID inquiry seems to have turned into a sort of pantomime. There's not really any substance to it.
It's hard to know whether it's a farce or a tragedy. For the amount of time it's taken, the number of illegal migrants currently sent by us to Rwanda, zilch. The amount of money it's cost, we're saying, what are we saying it's cost?
About 140 million.
140 million pounds so far. So 140 million pounds, so far result nil, absolutely nil.
Are we only going to be trusting sources like Meta and Google? Where is our unbiased news going to come from?
Calais in winter is cold.
That is from the Jeremy Corbyn book.
Kevin O'Sullivan is the worst presenter on Talk TV, sitting on his fat arse talking for a living.
If you're walking towards me and you're a vegan, you should have a great big orange sticker over here saying, "Watch out, vegans about."
The weirdest plank that we've had in, 3 years? Hundreds and hundreds of mice in a box, which he walked into a branch of McDonald's. McMouseman.
McMouseman, yeah.
McMouseman.
He should be easy enough to catch, this guy, shouldn't he? I mean, he's got a house full of mice.
He's on This is a major summit.
President Biden decided this was important after watching a Tom Cruise film.
Sunak and the current Conservative government are not Conservative.
Why don't you leave that party and come to one that actually shares your ideologies?
This has been a party political broadcast on behalf of the Reform UK Party.
Hi, Ofcom.
Kids think all they have to do is take pictures of everything.
Just shut down TikTok. Problem solved.
This is really unfair.
What's unfair?
If it's on camera, we're not doing the interview.
Yes, I'm going to do.
You're going to resign?
Yes, because I cannot continue my work. When I say I am God, I'm not joking.
Did you feel Elvis was controlling?
I've been answering your question, you answer mine.
It's actually not my job to answer your questions. Are you prepared to call Hamas a terror group?
Is it possible to have a rational
You can't,
discussion
can you?
with you?
I've asked you two questions. Should Hamas stay in power and are they a terror group? You're refusing to answer either of them. That is very telling.
Talk TV. It's the only place where you get the truth.
You've done a book on poetry. Poetry and music for the many. I love poetry. We can agree on that.
It's equally ridiculous.
I find it
Piers.
bizarre that you don't think Donald Trump has also told a lot of lies in his life.
I just don't. I don't see it.
Have you heard from him since what happened to you?
No, I have not.
Do you expect to?
He's busy. He's running for president.
He spends his life on the phone.
I really hope I am not anywhere near the top 100 issues of Trump right now, because then I would be concerned.
Who's bothered to call you?
I receive calls from my colleagues in Congress repeatedly. I still have great friends there. I talk to them. Before I came here, I was on the phone with 3 of them. We're on the phone regularly. I built everlasting relationships with people on both sides of the aisle, not just Republicans. Just recently, a Democrat out of Florida calls me. He's at a mixer or whatever, and there was a couple of my constituents there giving him a hard time that he expelled me. And he's like, look, I have some of your supporters here, and they're mad at me. A Democrat.
Donald Trump was to win the election, and he might well, the way the polls are going.
I believe he will, by a landslide.
If he did, and he decided to bring you out of the cold, would you accept?
What does that mean?
Well, if he said to you, I've got some job in my administration for you.
I'd love to work
He might
for
look
him.
at you and think, a young, dynamic, gay Republican, all right, he's flawed, but so am I. All right, he's done some bad stuff, so did I. But I'm now back as president. I'm going to bring back George Santos.
I'd put it out there. I'd love to be ICE director.
Was that a serious thing?
That's serious. That's serious.
What would you do if you were?
I speak 4 languages. I understand logistics. I'm really good on my feet.
What would you do if you were the ICE director?
It's very simple. It's about re-strategizing ICE. First of all, assuming that the president would give ICE its power back, and assuming that we can go ahead and sue into oblivion all these sanctuary nonsense laws so that the federal government can do its job. Here's the problem with ICE today. ICE has been handicapped for decades at this point. Nobody has ever taken it serious. But I remember as a little boy, 13 years old, being on the 7th train in New York City that runs into Queens to Manhattan, and having ICE stops Those were common right after 9/11 because they were picking up bad people on the train. Now, why don't we bring that back? I think it's time we act. New York City has probably the largest propensity of people living there with active removals proceedings, which means you have a deportation mandate on you, and they defy it and live blatantly in the open there. Just with the Joe Biden administration alone, 10 million came in 3 years. There's no way we have 12 million.
No, the situation on the border
It's ridiculous.
Is completely out of control.
Absolutely nonsense.
And Joe Biden has shown no ability to stem
Mayorkas is
the
even
tide
worse.
at all.
Mayorkas is a dereliction of duty. If you were to look up in a dictionary, dereliction of duty, it should be Alejandro Mayorkas' face in there now.
I mean, you talk of dereliction of duty. Do you think that you've been derelict in your duty?
No,
That's why you're sitting here now, because
I served every
lost
single
it all?
day honorably. I didn't do anything dishonorable while in Congress. I voted honorably. I voted. The only votes I missed was when I had court dates. Couldn't control
George,
that.
you've been facing 23 federal criminal charges.
I've been accused of only things before I was elected, nothing after I was elected. I have been accused of nothing during my time as a member of Congress.
So you told no lies once you became a congressman.
I had no reason to. You can look at my record. And
So what was the reason before?
Piers, like I said.
No, but I'm curious. I mean, you said I had no reason to.
What I'm trying.
But it does beg the question again. What was the reason before?
Okay, so poor choice of words, not reason. There was no need to lie or no.
But what was the need before, George?
Again, Piers, I can go back and say
Wrestle with your own thoughts.
There was
here.
no need, but do we all control stupid sometimes? No, stupid is stupid. You do stupid things and you can't control it, and you move past.
Here's the point I want to make to you, is that I can't help liking you, right? There's something very likable about you as a person. I can't help
You're a
it.
good friend. That's what every friend of mine ever told me.
Well, yeah, so you have a lot of likable qualities. You're charismatic. You're good on TV. You know, you're clearly smart, right? You clearly got deep flaws. If you do want to make a comeback, and it sounds to me like you absolutely do, the way you talk about potentially running ICE may not be such a bad idea, right? You've got lots of energy for it. But if you were to ever even be considered for that, you'd have to tell people and show people that you changed. Do you think you're capable of that?
I'm doing it all this year already throughout my actions and moving forward. Do you think the one thing the American people have appreciated the most after I left Congress is me not being afraid to just call it like it is? I saw the sausage being made, Piers, and now I just want to share with everybody how the sausage is made and why we are in the predicament we are as a country. People are.
What would your mother have said to you about all this?
Oh, she would have smacked me to hell. Oh my
Would she?
God! Oh, she was a tough lady. You have no
She would have
idea.
physically smacked you.
Oh, she would have physically assaulted me.
Why?
Because it was unacceptable.
What was?
Everything, the whole thing was unacceptable. Even.
But what would she have found most egregious about your behavior?
I would just say the fact that I had to open my mouth and say anything that wasn't true, she would have just beat me to a crisp. She would have pulled out a wooden stick. You don't know that woman.
Did you ever lie to her?
Oh, I knew better than to do that. I knew better. Oh, I definitely knew better. The one time I did, I caught a beating, but it was white little lie. Where were you? Oh, my friend's house. No, you weren't. I went there and you weren't there. Okay, whoops. So things teenagers do, nothing crazy.
Does your father have the same attitude to truth?
My father is the most honest man you'll ever meet.
So this is, again, fascinating to me. You've got two parents who sound like honesty is a real premium to them.
Honesty, hard work, stay, very big deal for both my parents.
Do you feel like you let them down?
Yes. Yes.
Do you miss your mother? I mean, it sounds like she was hugely important to you.
Absolutely. Not a day goes by. 7 years, December 23rd, that I lost my mom. 7 years that feel like yesterday.
Do you talk to her ever?
I talk, you know, you're going to call me crazy, but yes, every night before I go to bed, I throw some words up there and I hope she's always listening.
What do you say?
I just talk about whatever the day went or how I'm feeling. Just like part of my prayers. Believe it or not, I'm actually a praying man still, very much.
Do you think what's happened to you would have happened if she'd stayed alive?
No. No, it wouldn't.
Because you wouldn't have been able to...
She would have guided me much better. That was my compass right there.
Sad.
Absolutely. It's sad. It's really sad. Piers, life is sometimes full of twists and turns, ups and downs. And I'm not immune to it. Nobody's immune to it. We all go through it. And I believe we all come back stronger from controversy or from a situation like this.
George, if you end up going to prison, and obviously there's a possibility you're facing very serious charges, if you do you think you could handle it?
I don't know, Piers.
Have you thought about that?
I try not to think of negatives like that. I try to think as positive as humanly possible. I'm 35 years old. I trust the process. I have not been somebody critical of the DOJ, unlike some other colleagues of mine. I always have given our organizations, our entities, FBI, DOJ, CIA, credibility, because the moment I lose faith in them, I lose faith in this entire country. So, but I do trust the process, and I'm going to fight it.
What's your biggest regret about the whole thing?
I have many regrets.
What's your biggest?
If I could do it all over again, I'd do it very differently.
What would you do differently?
My story is compelling as is.
Right.
As is.
You remind me a little bit of the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, when I interviewed him.
It's from my district.
You didn't need to embellish your story.
Maybe the way I look at it is God had intended a different path, maybe. That's the only thing I can say. I believe in I'm faithful, so I believe in there's always a reason why things happen a certain way. So maybe I was destined to go do other things, learn a little bit about what's in there so I can come out here and open the eyes of the American people and maybe start a revolution, a political revolution that we really have to have in this country.
What's your final message for people watching this?
Don't count me out. You know, I've given many people a second chance, and I'm asking everybody to please give me a second chance, and I will, you know, come forward and prove to be worth your second chance. And I just want people to look at that and say, so many people make mistakes. We all make mistakes if you really take a look deep inside, and I'm sorry, and I look forward to continuing to be a voice for those who seek leadership in me.
George, it's good to see you again.
Yes,
and I wish you all the very best.
Thank you very much.
Whatever happens.
We're here.
Thanks for joining us.
You're with TalkTV, on TV,
on radio, online.
We're on your smart speaker as well.
They have made a statement condemning Hamas.
We expect to see the Crown revisit Harry's anti-Semitic Halloween costume.
Criminals to using XL bully dogs as weapons to threaten others.
No matter how well trained, most dog owners will tell you a dog can turn.
Do you know what I love about Talk Today? We do it all. Sunak, Suella, scones.
I rather like David Cameron. I don't sort of bear him any ill will because he delivered the referendum that he said he would deliver.
The Israelis are very conciliatory. All they want is to be recognised.
The timing of this Hamas attack comes because there was the expectation there was going to be a deal done for normalising relations with Saudi Arabia.
The Tories love a scrap. You can almost see this coming round the tracks with Suella Braverman. She's heading up one side and Rishi Sunak the other. Reshuffle's usually very dull. This one had booster rockets attached to it.
Certainly the tone has shifted in terms of what Rishi Sunak has done. The question now is what he does next.
The police are pro-Palestine.
That is just not right. You swear an oath in the police to act without fear or favour.
The COVID inquiry seems to have turned into a sort of pantomime. There's not really any substance to it.
It's hard to know whether it's a farce or a tragedy.
TalkTV has spoken exclusively to a member of the Blade Runners.
Do you have a message for Sadiq Khan?
We're not stopping until you stop.
For the amount of time it's taken, the number of illegal migrants currently sent by us to Rwanda, zilch. The amount of money it's cost, what are we saying it's cost?
About 140 million.
140 million pounds so far. So 140 million pounds, so far result nil, absolutely nil.
Are we only going to be trusting sources like Meta and Google? Where is our unbiased news going to come from?
Calais in winter is cold.
That is from the Jeremy Corbyn book.
Kevin O'Sullivan is the worst presenter on TalkTV, sitting on his fat ass talking for a living.
If you're walking towards me and you're a vegan, you should have a great big orange sticker over here saying, "Watch out, vegan's about."
The weirdest plank that we've had in, 3 years? Hundreds and hundreds of mice in a box, which he walked into a branch of McDonald's. McMouseman.
McMouseman, yeah.
McMouseman.
It should be easy enough to catch this guy, shouldn't he? I mean, he's got a house full of mice.
He's on
This is a major summit.
President Biden decided this was important after watching a Tom Cruise film.